An Iranian air defense unit that forgot to adjust its radar system triggered a chain of communication and human errors that led to the deadly downing of a Ukrainian passenger jet in January, according to a report from Iran's Civil Aviation Organization. Iran said it mistakenly shot down Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752 shortly after takeoff, killing all 176 aboard. Decoding of the jet's black boxes is expected to start July 20. The plane was downed by two missiles, fired 30 seconds apart, from an air defense unit that mistook the jet for a cruise missile. An operator had forgotten to readjust the north direction on the radar system after moving to a new position, an error that contributed to misreading the radar's data, according to the report published on CAO's website on Saturday. The operator of the air defense system launched a missile at what it had detected as a hostile target without response from the command center, CAO said in the report, adding that an unnamed person took action independently and without authorization from superiors. The incident took place hours after Iran's defense systems were put on high alert following the country's missile attack on a U.S. air base in Iraq in retaliation for the killing of a top Iranian general by the order of President Donald Trump. Boris Johnson is set to tell Parliament next week it will be compulsory for Britons to wear face coverings in shops, according to news reports, soon after telling the country that it was only optional do so. The Times newspaper on Saturday cited an unidentified government official saying it was a fair assumption masks will become obligatory in other indoor settings within a few weeks. On Friday, the Prime Minister said he wanted to be stricter on insisting people wear coverings in confined spaces. They're currently compulsory on public transport and in English hospitals. Johnson's administration has come in for steady criticism for its handling of the coronavirus pandemic, which has claimed the lives of about 45,000 people in the UK, by far the highest toll in Europe. Mixed messaging has led to confusion as to what people can and cannot do. Scotland has already made face masks compulsory in its stores, while the central English town of Leicester has gone back into lockdown. Johnson is treading a delicate line, trying to foster an environment that will revive an economy facing the twin threats of the pandemic and Brexit, while endeavouring to rein in measures that risk choking off a recovery. Former Russia Special Counsel Robert Mueller pushed back against President Donald Trump on Saturday, defending the prosecution of Roger Stone and the larger investigation into Russia interference in the 2016 election, saying that the flamboyant political operative was prosecuted and convicted because he committed federal crimes. He remains a convicted felon, and rightly so, Mueller said in a column published Saturday in The Washington Post. Mueller's remarks, prompted by Trump's commutation of Stone's 40-month prison sentence Friday, are the first since he testified before a House committee nearly a year ago after his team brought charges against at least a half-dozen former Trump aides during his campaign and after he took office. Stone was the last person charged by the Mueller team during the nearly two-year Russia investigation. Russia's actions were a threat to America's democracy, Mueller wrote. It was critical that they be investigated and understood. Mueller said the FBI had evidence that the Russians had signaled to a Trump campaign advisor that they could assist the campaign through the anonymous release of information damaging to the Democratic candidate. Stone became a central figure in our investigation for two key reasons. He communicated in 2016 with individuals known to us to be Russian intelligence officers, and he claimed advance knowledge of WikiLeaks' release of emails stolen by those Russian intelligence officers, Mueller wrote. We also identified numerous links between the Russian government and Trump campaign personnel, Stone among them. We did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired with the Russian government in its activities, the former special counsel wrote, reasserting the team's conclusions. The investigation did, however, establish that the Russian government perceived it would benefit from a Trump presidency and worked to secure that outcome. It also established that the campaign expected it would benefit electorally from information stolen and released through Russian efforts. Polls began voting on Sunday in a knife-edge presidential election between a populist incumbent closely allied with U.S. President Donald Trump and a Europhile liberal who wants to restore ties with Brussels. The result will be decisive for the future of Poland's Law and Justice party government, which critics accuse of rolling back hard-won democratic freedoms 3 decades after the fall of communism. President Andrzej Duda, backed by the PiS, is facing a challenge from Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski of the opposition Civic Platform party, and the latest polls show an almost even split between the two. The Battle for Poland read a front-page headline in the tabloid Super Express. The liberal daily Gazeta Wyborcza said the choice was between hope and disaster and would resonate for generations. The vote had been due in May, at a time when Duda was riding high in the polls, but was delayed because of the coronavirus pandemic. Duda's support has slipped considerably since then, partly because of the virus fallout, which is pushing Poland into its first recession since communist rule. Too close to call, polls opened at 0500 GMT and will close at 1900 GMT, with an exit poll scheduled shortly after that and the first official results only expected Monday morning. Experts are warning that Sunday's result could be so close that legal challenges and protests will ensue. In the first round on June 28, Duda came first with 43.5% and Trzaskowski second with 30.4%. But Trzaskowski will be hoping to sweep up votes from Poles who supported other opposition candidates. Eurasia Group, a political risk consultancy, said he has had to mobilize very disparate parts of the electorate against Duda and the incumbent would therefore likely win, though by a narrow margin. Trzaskowski proved an able and eloquent campaigner, but 2 weeks is a short time to bridge Duda's lead, it said, pointing to a lack of clear support for him from opposition candidates who lost in the first round. The Santos Bar, across from Cordova's celebrated mosque, would normally be groaning with tourists tucking into its trademark Spanish tortillas. But with the coronavirus pandemic, everything's dead, the owner says. The Mezquita, an 8th-century mosque later turned into a cathedral, is the most visited site in the Andalusian town in southern Spain. But since it reopened at the end of May, only 16,000 people have set foot in the UNESCO World Heritage Site, considered one of the most accomplished works of Moorish architecture, the number of visitors it would normally receive in a week. It will take months to make that up, said church spokesman José Juan Jiménez Gueto, although money set aside in previous years means staff have been kept busy with restoration projects. Nearby restaurants, hotels and shops are not so lucky, and many are closed. At the Santos Bar, only owner Jesus Maldonado is working. Business is a quarter of normal, he said. His 10 employees are all on a state-backed furlough scheme. The plunge in tourism, a sector that accounts for 12% of Spain's economy, will be felt like a body blow. While the country's beaches are its biggest draw, cities in the interior like Cordova also attract tourists with their cultural sites. And it's places like Granada, Toledo, and Segovia that are bearing the brunt, according to Spain's National Hotel Association, with revenue drops greater than 50% for restaurants and bars in their historic city centers. In Andalusia, hotel occupancy is at an average of just 25%, a good 10 percentage points lower than in